If you've ever wanted to turn your tier 3 into an auto crafting machine, then this video is for you. My name is Ozzy and I'll teach you how to set up your workbench to craft rockets, C4, and more so you can get on to your next raid even faster. I'll give you an overview and then show you how to build it from scratch. This design uses two industrial crafters attached to the tier 3 workbench. The bottom crafter is shown crafting meds, 5.56, explo ammo, and explosives, though you can put any ammo in here and even some other stuff, but the important thing for this design is the explosives and these first four inputs. The top crafter makes rockets and C4. I also put high velocity rockets in here as well. You can do SAM ammo, but it's such a resource hog, I don't recommend it unless you have more pipes than you know what to do with. First, place all of your resources in this bottom box. Those resources will then feed into this industrial splitter, then to each conveyor, which tells the system which resources go into each crafter. The filter on each of these uses a min value of 1 to keep a placeholder in the input box. This prevents you from absolutely filling your box with cloth or frags, and makes sure that there's enough room for at least one stack of every resource you're going to use. The max value keeps from overfilling the crafter when you're out of something. Same idea. For example, if I'm out of gunpowder, but if I have plenty of cloth, the system will stop at 15, rather than pulling an extra stack and flooding the crafter. The same goes for the top conveyor. You can set these filters to just one full stack if you want, but during a raid it's very easy to lose an industrial crafter, and they don't drop what's in there. So if you lose entire stacks worth of mats and stuff, actually that might be a play. I don't know. Do with that info what you will. Once your crafters do what they do best, the bottom crafter feeds out to this splitter. Explosives then follow the line back and connect with the input box, allowing this top conveyor to pull them directly from the crafter in order to make rockets and C4. Everything else exits both crafters through these two conveyors into a combiner and then into the box. The filters in these output conveyors tell the system how much of each item you want to make. If you don't set these, the system will just make as much as possible of the first blueprint until either your box is full or you're out of resources. And a box full of syringes isn't the goal here. The minimum of 1 keeps the placeholder in the crafter. An industrial crafter always tries to make the first blueprint in this top section. Only after it can't, either due to a lack of resources or the output is full, then it will move on to the next item. So let's say our output is empty, and the conveyor has already stopped pulling syringes because we've met our quota. The crafter will keep going. It'll fill the entire output at the bottom here, meaning we can't make anything else. If we have a single placeholder for each item, it then forces the crafter to stop making syringes once it's finished that stack, and then make the next item, 5.56 in this case, and then so on and so forth. I recommend arranging your blueprints carefully. I have this arrangement because meds and 5.56 are the most important to me to have on hand and keep crafting when I'm defending a raid on my base. Explo ammo will likely fill fairly quickly for my requirements, and then the rest of the time can just be spent on explosives for rockets and C4, but do what makes the most sense for you. By the same token, arrange your top crafter according to your playstyle. And this rock can be anything, it's just to fill space and stop the crafter. Next I'll show you how to build this system from scratch. For those of you who don't need the step-by-step, there are some useful screenshots at the end of the video, plus the restriction circuit is in the description. Now I've already placed our tier 3 in a couple of boxes. The components we'll be using are 2 industrial crafters, power supply of your choice, electrical branch, switch if you want to be able to turn it on and off, storage adapter, there's going to be 2, 4 industrial conveyors, 2 industrial splitters, and 1 industrial combiner. There are 2 slots for industrial crafters on a workbench, on the bench itself and on top. We'll be using both. Now, I like placing these little car batteries on benches because I think it's neat and cool and nifty and whatnot, but it makes more sense to just branch that off your main power supply. We're also going to put this branch here because we'll be splitting our power in 2, and then I'm going to place a switch underneath it, power from power supply to the switch, from the switch to the branch, and then we'll get more into that later. We want to place storage adapters on each of our boxes. We're also going to need a conveyor for the input side of each crafter as well as the output side for each crafter. I like to spin it sideways, you don't have to, whatever. We also need a splitter for our input side and the output side for the lower crafter. And then lastly, we want this combiner for all of our output boom stuff that we've crafted. Now for connections, we're going to go from our resource box below the workbench We're going to go to the splitter here so that we can put it in both the top and the bottom conveyors. We're going to go from each conveyor to each crafter. The bottom crafter is going to go to the splitter. One of the outputs from the splitter is going to come back into the resource box. That allows this conveyor to follow the trail all the way back to this crafter, pulling explosives directly up into the top crafter. We're going to send another output to this conveyor, into the combiner, into our output box. Top crafter is going to go into the conveyor, into the combiner, also into the box. Now for electrical, we have two paths. We're going to send the first one up here to this top industrial conveyor, and the conveyors have a pass-through, which means we can just continue the power line to the next one, and then we'll continue over here to the industrial crafter. Now the crafter doesn't have a pass-through, so we need to go over here and pull our second line. And then we'll send that up here to this conveyor, through the pass-through down to this one, and then we'll take this one over to the top crafter. Now each of these components use one power, both the crafters and each of the conveyors. So we need 6 power total. We have 1, 2, 3 on the first line on the branch, and then 1, 2, 3 on the second line. We'll configure the branch for 3. That's the power that comes out of this branch out. And then as long as you have 6 going into it, then 3 will come out of the power out as well. So my battery does 15 power. If you are branching off of your main power supply, make sure that branch shows at least 6 rust watts. If you add anything to the circuit, for example, if you want to use the filter pass fail on any of these for anything else like that, make sure you adjust your power appropriately. If you're going to use these, you need an additional power for each conveyor that you're going to use that for. Now that the electrical and the industrial is out of the way, let's work on configuring our crafters. So for our top crafter, we're going to throw our blueprints in there, and then we actually don't need to put any of the inputs. Our filters, our conveyor filters are going to do that for us. We do, however, need 1 of each item in the output. This is what creates our placeholder and tells the crafter to move on from one item to the next. We'll do the same thing with our lower crafter. And I'll have pictures at the end of the video showing you what all to put where and everything, all nice in one spot. Makes it easy to come back and reference what needs to go where. So these outputs don't have to be in any order. They'll still craft based on blueprint first. Reminder, put your blueprints in the order that you care about priority or craft order. So that's our crafters set up. Now we need our filters. For the bottom, we need gunpowder, sulfur, frags, low grade, I can spell, and cloth. Remember, you want to put 1 on all of your minimums for your placeholders in the resources box, and then your maximums, ideally this is going to be the number that's the most that's required for any one blueprint. However, you don't have to do that. You could just say do 100 in all of them and call it a day. That only works because you'll actually cover however much is needed for all of these. The most gunpowder we need is 50, so if we have 100 in there, that's fine. If I did that for the top, it wouldn't work. For example, we need pipes, tech trash, explosives, gunpowder, and cloth again. So if I were just to do 100 across the board in each of these, remember, use your mins. Metal pipes, this is more than 1 max stack. So I could possibly end up with the whole thing just full of metal pipes if I put 100 there. Tech trash stacks at 50. Explosives is 100, that's fine. Gunpowder, it actually costs 150 to do a rocket. So if I put this at 100, I'm not going to craft any rockets. So that at least needs to be 150. And 100 cloth will cover fine. Also, for your filters, make sure it's set to any item. If you hit require all, it means you need at least 1 of each of these before it'll pull over and that's not what we want. Now on the output side, for the bottom one, we want our medical syringes, and then we've got our 5.56. Now remember, we're not putting explosives in here because we want those to stay in the crafter to be pulled up to the top crafter. And this is where you set your maximums equal to how much you want to craft. So if we want 3 stacks of syringes, 2 stacks of each of the rifle ammo, set all of your mins to 1 again. And then up here we've got our rockets and our C4. Say we want, I don't know, 18 of each rocket, 10 C4, set your mins to 1. And then now we're going to craft up to the maximum on each of these. And then once we hit all of those, we're going to stop. We're not going to craft anymore. They stay as resources. This system will just chill and not even worry about it. So now if we turn it on, we can turn on each of our conveyors and our crafters. It's not doing anything right now because there's no resources in the inputs, no resources in the loot box. But if we come over here to our handy dandy box of resources, we can fix that pretty quickly. So now it's starting, it's pulling all those resources up into here, and if you watch it as it starts the next craft, you'll see which ones it pulls. So it pulled these because it started crafting some rifle ammo. It started crafting the rifle ammo because the conveyor hadn't pulled this, and the crafter considered it a full stack, so it moved on to the next one. Now the conveyor's pulled this, it's crafting another syringe again. Once that craft is over, starts a new craft, pulls resources, the conveyor refills it back up to that max that we set before. If we look at the top one, same thing. It pulls that gunpowder, it's using it to craft a rocket. Boom, rocket. Conveyor's gonna pull that rocket into the box. The input conveyor pulls the gunpowder. Crafter says, cool, we got enough stuff, let's make another one. Then over here in our box, we have boom. We've got boom, we've got ammo, we've got syringes. That's what we were looking for, that's what we wanted. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, please hit that thumbs up button. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see any more videos like this. And I will see you all next time.